Okay, let us start the session. Today we are going to talk about project management fundamentals. I'm going to take you through the what is project management, why project management is necessary. These are the general information about the project, and we are trying to understand the project management processes, how the project management works in the industry. Then we will be moving into scope management, time management, and then full of exercises of questions. That is good enough for you to appear in the examination. For civil, mechanical, electrical, you are getting about 5 to 7 questions from the project management topics. So it is easy to answer all the questions. You can answer all the questions easily. So just to understand what I'm talking about and read through the material, it is good enough for you to prepare. What is project? I could say project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. What do you mean by temporary? When I say temporary, every project has a definite start and definite end. It is not an ongoing effort. If it is an ongoing effort, it is not a project. When the objectives of the project has been achieved, then we are ceasing the operation of the project. Team disbanded upon completion. These are the meaning of temporary. In every project, you are getting a unique product. So even you are doing the building project, even though you are doing all building project, every building project is a different product. So that's why I say project is a producing a unique product, service, or result. Why projects are being initiated in the industry? I could say projects are implemented to achieve the organization's strategic plan. What does that mean? Every organization, they have a goal, what they want to achieve in the next 10 years or 20 years. In order to achieve the business goals, they are initiating the projects. That's why I'm saying that projects are implemented to achieve the organization's strategic plans. Operations are ongoing and repetitive. You're doing the same thing to sustain the business. Even I could say further, projects are meant to the organizational request that cannot be achieved by normal operation. What does that mean? For example, you have a 100 million project. You have about 25 resources in your organization. Are you able to finish this project with the available 25 resources in your organization? Which is not possible. So what we need to do? That's why we are going into the project effort. We are seeking the assistance of the multi-organizations to provide various support or services for the project in order to achieve the project objective. That's why I'm saying that projects are meant to the organizational request that cannot be achieved by our normal operations. What are the reasons for initiating the project? It could be market demand, or it could be a customer organizational necessity, or it could be a customer request, or it could be a technological advancement, or it could be a legal requirement. These are the various reasons for initiating the projects in the industry. Now let's talk about what is project management. Very simple definition. Project management is nothing but it is the application of your knowledge, skills, tools and techniques to the project activities in order to meet the project requirements or stakeholders' requirements. It is the application of your knowledge, skills, tools and techniques to the project activities in order to achieve the project requirements. Let's talk about advantages of using the formal project management. Number one, you will have a better control of your financial, physical, and human resources. You have a plan for each element. Improved customer relations. What do you mean by improved customer relations? what the customers are looking from you. Good morning, good afternoon. What they are looking from you.
You have a better customer relation.
Good outputs.
Good
Satisfaction.
outputs. Basically, they are looking at you whether the project team will be able to achieve the product requirements or the requirements of the stakeholders, whether you will be able to produce the product according to the requirement. This is what they're looking for. How you are going to demonstrate to them that you will be able to achieve their requirements. That's why you are going through the detailed planning work, where you are producing a lot of plans, like the scope management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, resource management plan, communications management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, stakeholder engagement plan, change management plan. Also, you are producing the baselines like scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline, performance measurement baselines. These are the various planning outputs you are producing. What are you trying to tell to the stakeholders through your planning outputs? You are telling the stakeholder, this is the way I am going to achieve your requirements. And the stakeholders review your plans. When they understand your plans, they will be able to say, oh, this project is in good hands. This team is having good understanding of the project. This team is having good understanding of our requirements. They have a plan for meeting all our requirements. Once they get this confidence, what they will do, what they will tell you. They will tell you, guys, we are ready to give you any support you require in order to achieve the project objective. That's what the meaning of improved customer. So you are demonstrating through your plans that this is the way I am going to achieve your project requirements or product requirements. Shorter development times, what does that mean? We are trying to develop a schedule where you are thinking about what is the shortest time period we could complete the project. What is that? Shortest time period we could complete the project. That's what you are doing through the schedule development. Lower cost. How you get lower cost? When the resources allocated for the project are being utilized efficiently, then you are getting the improvement in productivity and reduction in cost. Higher quality and increased reliability. What do you mean increased reliability? The customers can able to use your completed deliverables without any difficulties in their business operation. That's what the meaning of increase. They can reliably use your deliverables without any problems. That's what the increased reliability. Higher profit margin, yes, that's what we are looking for. Improved productivity, better internal coordination between the various disciplines, higher work morale, meaning less stress for the people working in the formal project management practices. If you are working in a project where you do not have any formal procedures and processes, where you will feel like what I am doing in this project. Every day I am getting different direction. Every day they are changing the scope. Every day they are giving different work, different nature of responsibility. What is this? So they will be all under very stressful working conditions. Where if you have a formal project management practices, you will not have this. You will have a very less stress. You will be able to perform your project work smoothly without any stress. This is the biggest advantage for us. Please unmute. Why you are unmuting? You have to mute.
Sir, cannot hear you, sir.
cannot hear you. You are muted. So.
Unmute for myself also. Sorry. When I talk about the triple constraint, which is scope, time, and cost. Managing the triple constraint requires balancing act. What do you mean by balancing act? Whenever you are trying to make adjustment to any of these constraints, for example, you are trying to reduce the project duration. How will you reduce the project duration? You can unmute and talk, no problem. How can you reduce the project duration?
By increasing cost.
Increasing cost.
Increasing the
Cost.
increasing the
Manpower.
cost.
Resources.
Increasing the manpower. Basically, increasing the resources to the project will give you the reduction in cost, right? Is it correct?
Yes.
No. When you are increasing the resources, what will happen naturally? It increases the cost. So the cost get impacted. What is the other way of reducing the project duration? Hassan, are you able to hear now?
Maintaining the time which we have to complete in that time.
Maintaining the time. Maintaining the time means, no, I'm asking you the question, how can we reduce the duration? One of the way is increasing the project resources so that you can get the reduction in duration. When you're increasing the resources, you are going to get the impact on the cost. So the cost will increase. Correct?
Right.
Yes.
What is the other way of reducing the project duration?
The scope, you change the scope or you modify the scope.
Modify the scope, easy to achieve the reduction. No. If you mean that, you mean reducing the scope of work, right? If you are reducing the scope of work, it is easier to achieve the reduction in duration. But that is not the technique. If you reduce, you no need to think, you will automatically reduce the duration. But we need to maintain the scope, how to achieve the shortest time, reduction in duration. The other way is fast tracking. What is fast tracking? Instead of doing packages in a particular sequence, we may do it with the overlapping or parallel.
Parallelly doing it.
Yeah, that is called fast tracking. So when you do fast tracking, what will happen?
The risk will be more.
You are increasing the risk of the project, correct. What is the risk you are getting there? Whenever you do the parallel activities, most of the time, more defects will happen. So you will end up with the more rework whenever you do the parallel activities. So we need to increase our coordination efforts to minimize the rework. So whenever you are trying to do or make adjustment in any of these constraints, scope, time, or cost, you are naturally impacting the other areas. Most of the time, quality gets impacted. That's why we need to have a balancing act while you are managing the triple constraint. What is a balancing act? Whenever you are trying to take action on any of this area, you need to think about what is the impact on scope, what is the impact on time, what is the impact on quality, what is the impact on cost. We need to choose the best option which minimizes the impact on the other areas. That is called the balancing act. Very good. So next we are trying to understand the project management processes. Project management processes. Wait a minute. Still have issues on the not hearing my voice?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Mr.
Can hear you clearly.
Is it clear now? Or
Yeah.
do you want me to adjust further?
It's clear.
It's
Full
clear,
voice
it's
now.
clear, clear.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
thank you.
clear.
Let's talk about the understanding the project management processes, how the project management processes were developed. Maybe you heard this concept, plan, do, check, act cycle, which is in the PDCA cycle, which is mostly used in the quality theories. Whatever you do in your life, definitely you will not do straight away. You will plan and then you do. While you are doing you are implementing your plans. Basically, do means implementing your plans. When you are implementing your plan, you need to periodically check whether we are working aligned with the plan or there are any deviation in our actions. If there are deviations, we need to, what do we need to do? We need to correct it. We need to take necessary corrective action. Yes, massage. Selvaraj, please. Yes. Somebody raise hand. Okay. So based on this, we have developed the project management processes, initiating processes, planning processes, executing processes, monitoring control processes, and closing processes. When you compare with the plan, do, check, act cycle, initiating means start of the cycle, planning is plan, executing is do, monitoring and controlling, which is check and act, closing is the end of the cycle. Now let's understand how the project management processes or process group. These are called 5 process groups: initiation, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. Here let's discuss about what do you mean by initiation. Somebody can tell me what is your understanding of the initiation? Mr. Abdul Rahman.
Initiation means starting.
Starting. What do you mean by starting?
Starting the project.
Starting the project. How will you start the project?
By understanding the scope of the project.
Understanding the scope of the project. Right. When you are starting the project, what do you mean by when you're starting the project? You are starting about the execution or starting about initiation of the project by the owner?
Planning first.
Organization short.
Organization chart. Okay.
Maybe the idea of the project.
Yes, the idea of the project. I'll give you a simple example. So, for example, one of the customer come to me. Hello, Ravi. I want to do a project. Okay, sir, good idea. Tell me, sir, what project you want to do? I want to construct a 60-story commercial office tower. I want to construct a 60-story commercial office tower. Okay, sir, it's a good idea. There are a lot of requirements, or there is a demand for the office tower currently. It's a good idea, sir. Tell me, what do you want to do? What kind of information he can tell me at this stage of the project idea? He may tell me, I have a land area of 20,000 square meter. I want to have a building 15,000 square meter. I want to construct 60 stories of building. I want to have each floor 5 to 6 offices. Each contains 1,000 to 2,000 square meter of space. I want my building to be designed with the unique architectural design or intent. I want to have a good interior design intent. I want to have my building protected with the latest fire protection or fire safety systems. I want to have my building protected with the latest security systems. I want to have a multi underground basement car parks. If necessary, I want to have a couple of floors above ground car park as well. I want to have a good landscaping around my building. These are the initial information they can tell you. That's called initiation. Or also, he may tell you, I am ready to spend 500 million for this project. but I want my project to be completed in 3 years. I say, why sir, you want to complete in 3 years? It's a very tough exercise. Now we did the feasibility study analysis about the market, where the market is going to be in good condition for next 4 years. If I complete the building in 3 years, I could be able to sell off my office spaces or rent out my office spaces within the 1 good year period, so that I can able to take back my investment in next 10 years. So he did the analysis. And I also tell you, in my organization, I have multi-department. These are the key people who will be involved in the project, and they will be able to support the project. So he is trying to give you high-level information about the project. He is trying to give you high-level information about the project. Basically, when you want to start the project, everybody must understand by reading a particular document, what is this project about? You will not be able to get the complete understanding or detailed understanding about the project at the start of the project life cycle, especially in the initiation stage. So what we are trying to do here, we are trying to define the project at a high level in order to make sure all the key stakeholders are having a clear understanding of the project, clear understanding of the objectives of the project, clear understanding of the key deliverables expected from the project, so that they will be committed for achieving the objectives of the project. That's what we are trying to achieve through the initiation. So the result of the initiation is project charter. The normal terminology we are using here is project brief. Okay, the project management terminology is project charter. It is a universal terminology. Wherever you go throughout the world, if you say project charter, everybody knows it is a initiation document authorizing the project to commence, which is basically done for achieving the commitment of the key stakeholders for executing the project. That's what I'm saying here, commitment to execute the project. Okay, let's talk about planning. What is planning? What's the meaning of planning? You are creating a lot of plans. What are you trying to?
You plan how to manage the project by collecting requirements and other.
So basically,
resource planning, and by knowing the final date of the completion of the project. So how to plan?
What are the item you are planning? You are planning of how you are going to manage the scope, how you are going to manage the time, how you are going to manage the cost, and so on, right? That's what you are planning. So what is that? What you are trying to express through all your plans?
Allocating the resources.
Okay, you are that's resource management plan. Yes.
Defining the scope.
Defining the scope, yes, that's part of the scope management, yes.
And cost.
List
No,
of
you are
activities.
having many plans, right? Like say scope management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline, quality baseline, and so on, right? What are you trying to tell through these plans?
Allocating the resources.
How am I going to execute the work?
Yeah. Basically, you are defining your strategy. You are defining your strategy and approach that you are going to adopt in managing this project. This is the way I am going to manage and achieve your requirements. This is what you are demonstrating through your plans. So basically, the planning exercise defines our strategy and approach in managing this project. When I say planning, you are thinking about how you are going to plan, how you are going to execute, how you are going to measure your performance during execution, how you are going to measure the performance. If there is a deviation from the plan in terms of while you are measuring the performance or variances from the plan, what will you do? When the variances are minor in nature, what will you do? When the variances are major in nature, what will you do? How are you going to close the project? So you are thinking about every part through the planning. So how are you going to plan? How are you going to execute? How are you going to monitor and control? How are you going to close? That's what you are thinking through the planning work. That's what I'm saying here. Planning is the approach to executing the project. Okay, we complete our plan. What is the final result of the planning work?
The deliverables.
Huh?
Execute.
Deliverables.
Deliverables.
Yeah.
Deliverables general term. All are deliverables. All
Scope.
the plans are deliverables.
So scope, the scope.
What is the final result of the planning work? That's my question.
Execution as per the plan.
Or in other words, I will ask you. By
The
end of the
sequence.
planning, what are you getting? By end of the planning, what are you getting?
plan.
The idea of execution.
The
Idea of
sequence
execution.
plan.
What plan?
The sequence of the activities.
Sequence of
Execution
activities, one of the deliverable within the planning.
Execution.
Process management plan.
The design.
Project management plan. That is the final result of the planning work. Project management plan. What is project management plan? Which is the compilation of all your plans created through the planning processes, which comprises of all the management plans. And I say management plan, scope management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, resource management plan, communications management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, stakeholder engagement plan, change management plan, process improvement plan. There are many plans are being created. And then also you are finalizing the baselines. Normally 4 baselines we are using: scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline, performance measurement baseline. These are all these outputs compiled together called as project management plan. That is the final result of the planning work. What does that mean? This is our plan of action for executing this project. So we are ready with our plan before we go into the execution. What is the plan? Project management. Now let's move to the execution. What do you mean by execution? Basically, execution is nothing but implementation of your project management plan. Implementation of your project management plan. When you are implementing, how you are going to implement? You are utilizing the people and the other resources like physical resources, equipment, other resources in order to produce the project deliverables according to your plan. That's why I'm saying that coordinating the people and other resources happening in the execution. Then while you are executing the work in parallel, there is another activity happening, which is monitoring and control. What does that mean? Monitoring and control. While you are executing the work, you need to monitor whether the execution is happening according to our plans, right? So for example, you are monitoring a package, which is a mechanical package, for example. So when you are monitoring the mechanical package, you awarded this package to a particular seller or contractor. He is executing the work. When you are monitoring, you realize he is supposed to complete 10 deliverables until now by deploying 50 resources as per our plan. When I monitor, I realize he has only deployed 30 resources. That too, less experience than what we have planned. So what are you going to keep quiet in this situation? He is supposed to deploy 50 resources for that package. He has deployed only 30 resources actually at site or in the project. That too, less experience or less capable resources. If you are keeping quiet, what is going to happen? You will not finish the agreed scope of work. You will not finish on time. You will not finish the deliverables according to the requirements. You will not finish within the budget. All the problems will come in. So what we need to do? We need to take control action. So you need to take corrective action to make sure the stakeholder responsible for implementing the package is deploying the resources according to the plan. That's what monitoring and control. This is one aspect. Other aspect, whenever you are executing the work, periodically, we need to measure our performance. We need to measure our actual performance. Say, for example, you may need to measure scope performance, schedule performance, cost performance, quality performance, resource utilization performance, risk management performance, stakeholder engagement performance, procurement performance, seller performance, all has to be measured periodically. Say, for example, let's take an example as a schedule measurement, performance measurement. When I'm updating the schedule, I may do it weekly or bi-weekly or monthly. So I need to determine this as part of the planning. What is the frequency of progress measurement that we are determining as part of the plan? So I'm assuming I'm measuring on a monthly basis. So when I measure the end of the month, I'm updating the schedule. And I update the schedule, I can be able to understand whether we are executing the work according to the schedule, or I'm in a delay, or I'm in a ahead of schedule. So you may determine your current performance. If you are as per the schedule, no problem. If you are ahead of the schedule, no problem. You are doing better than planned. But if you are in delay, what do you need to do? You need to take necessary corrective action to improve the schedule performance so that you will be able to achieve the project work aligned with our plan. That's called monitoring and control. So periodically, we are measuring our actual performance, comparing with our plan, which is baseline, to determine whether we are on schedule or behind schedule or ahead of schedule. If you see there are negative variances, you need to understand what is the magnitude of the variance. So for example, the delay could be 10 days delay, or the delay could be 1 month delay. If it is 10-day delay, your action is different. If it is 1 month delay, your action is different. Right? You will not be same action. So depending on the magnitude of variances from the plan, we are taking necessary corrective actions to improve the schedule performance so that we will be able to achieve the project work aligned with our baseline. That's what called monitoring and control. Clear? Right now, closing. What do you mean by closing? Because we don't like the project, so we can close the project.
After completion, we will be closing the project.
I will give you a small example. What we told them in the planning work, what we told the stakeholders. Guys, look at this. These are our plans. These are our baselines. This is the way we are going to execute the project and complete the project deliverables according to your requirements. Right? This is what we told them, right? So finally, when it comes to the closure, we need to demonstrate. We need to demonstrate to them we have completed the project work and created the project deliverables according to your requirements. You need to demonstrate. That's called closure. Thereby, you are demonstrating to them we have completed all the project work according to your requirement. We created the deliverables. We handed over to you. This is the proof. That's what we are demonstrating through the closure. Here I'm trying to explain to you what are the key deliverables in each process group. So in the initiating processes, generally we have two key deliverables. One is the project charter or project brief. Other one is the stakeholder register. Then in the planning processes, we are creating all the plans, scope management plan, time management plan, as I explained to you. So the final result of the planning work is project management plan. Then in the executing processes, you are creating the product or deliverables, managing the changes, managing the issues, managing the testing, all are happening in the execution. Then in the controlling processes, monitoring control processes, you are producing status report, progress report, quality report, managing changes, managing issues, all are happening in the monitoring control processes. Then in the closing processes, you are evaluating the product, process, and vendor. When I say product evaluation, how many number of deliverables we have completed? what all the deliverables we face difficulties, what all the deliverables it came up well, why some of the deliverable we are not able to produce without any difficulty, where is the flaw in our processes, where is the flaw in our methodology technology. It can be analyzed so that we can make improvement in our selection of methodology, processes and procedures. Also, we need to think about our project management processes. In the project management, we have 49 processes. We may not use all the 49 processes in all the projects. We may use certain number of projects depending on the nature of project, size of the project, and complexity of the project. So we need to analyze by end of the project completion. We need to analyze what all the project management processes we utilize, what all the processes worked well or gave us a good result, what all the processes didn't give us a good result, why, where is the flaw in our processes, so we can make improvement in our project management processes. Also, we need to analyze the vendors. So maybe we appointed 30 sellers. We know from the analysis during the monitoring control, who are the sellers gave us a good performance, who are the sellers didn't give us a good performance, why, where is the flaw in our procurement process, whether we have not selected the right sellers for the project, or the sellers does not have the right capability, or sellers didn't apply our project management methodology and technology properly. All can be analyzed so that we can make improvement in our procurement process, so that we will be able to get better sellers in the next future phases of the project life cycle or in future phases. That's all part of our closing work. And we are producing the acceptance documentations. And also we are producing the legal contract and budget closure. What does that mean? When I say closure, there are two closure. One closure is called administrative closure. One closure is called administrative closure. What do you mean by administrative closure? We need to demonstrate to the project stakeholders that we have completed the project deliverables successfully according to the requirements. That is administrative closure. Second part of the closure, in order to achieve this, the project deliverables, we appointed many sellers. Maybe we appointed 100 over contractors for our project. So when you are appointing the contractor, you are signing the contract, right, with the sellers. What is contract? How can we define the contract?
Contract, it is an agreement. That,
Contract is an agreement, yes.
what are the items we need according to our requirement? What should be done? We have to tell all the things to the contractor.
Basically, contract is a legal binding. Contract is a legal binding between the buyer and seller, defining the rules of engagement in achieving the project objectives. Why you are appointing the sellers? You want the sellers to support us in achieving the project objectives. They have a certain expertise and capabilities in meeting the project requirements. That's why we appointed them. So it is a legal binding between the buyer and seller. So when I say legal binding, both parties are having obligations under the contract. Yes. Yeah, Abdul Sami. Abdul Sami. Okay. So when I say contract, the contractual document contains obligations and conditions of contract. So both parties are having obligations, buyer as well as the seller. What is the seller obligation? You need to complete the project deliverables according to the buyer requirements. If he fulfills his obligation, what is the buyer obligation? You need to compensate the seller. You need to compensate the seller. Why you are not hearing it? Are you hearing all?
Yes.
Good sound, full sound is there. Adjust your mic, adjust your speaker.
Can hear you.
My one is full actually. So, when the seller fulfills his obligation under the contract, what is the buyer obligation? You need to compensate the seller. Say for example, during the execution, you are monitoring the seller's performance. Now, 1 month into the project, seller has to complete 10 million worth of work, according to our plan, for example. But when we are measuring the performance, we realize seller has completed only 5 million worth of work. He has submitted only 5 million invoice. What does that mean? Seller supposed to complete 10 million worth of work according to our plan, whereas his actual performance is only 5 million. What does that mean? Seller is not performing as we expected. Seller is not performing. So what do you need to do? You need to take necessary corrective action.
Corrective
to
action.
improve the seller performance. Right? This is all part of the execution and monitoring control. Other way also can happen. Seller has submitted 20 million of invoice. Buyer has paid him only 5 million only so far. What does that mean in this case? Buyer is not performing. So we need to take control action to make sure buyer is compensating the seller for the completed work so that performance of the project will not get affected. This is all part of our work during the execution and the monitoring control. At the end of the day, when we close the project, we need to verify each contract to see whether both parties of the contract have fulfilled their obligations. So once you verify each conditions of contract, if both parties of the contract have fulfilled their obligation, we close the contract formally. We close the contract formally. What do you mean by close the contract formally? Meaning, we are demonstrating that there is no legal binding between these two parties anymore. There is no legal binding between these two parties anymore. Because both parties of the contract have fulfilled their obligations. That's called contract closure. Contract and budget closure. If you don't do that, what will happen? You didn't close the contract, you close the project, you moved away. Maybe after 6 months, buyer can sue the seller. Hey, you are not fulfilled this obligation, I'm suing you for 10 million. Seller can sue the buyer. Oh, you are not fulfilled this obligation, I'm suing you for 20 million. So what happened? Buyer and seller is entering into unnecessary legal battle. Whereas through our execution and monitoring control, we have every record of the performance of the both parties. So we can easily verify whether both parties of the contract have fulfilled their obligation under the contract, and we can close the contract easily under the contract closure process. That's why we kept the closure under two sections. One is the administrative closure. Deliverables are handed over to the stakeholders by demonstrating we have completed projects out successfully. The other part is closing the contract by checking through all the contractual obligations and conditions. This is what happening through the entire life cycle of the project. Next, let's talk about project management framework. Project management framework. What is that? What is this framework? Look at this framework. So basically, what we want while we are doing the project, we want to achieve the successful completion of the project. We want to achieve the successful completion of the project. How are you going to achieve that? So what we do generally, we are analyzing the stakeholder needs and expectations, and we are using these 10 knowledge areas with appropriate tools and techniques in achieving the project success. What are the knowledge areas? Scope management, time management, cost management, quality management. These 4 knowledge areas is called as core functions of project management. Look at the other areas: resource management, communications management, risk management, procurement management, and stakeholder engagement. These are called facilitating functions of project management. Look at the one more knowledge area, which is project integration management. Project integration management. This knowledge area integrates all our efforts happening in the other 9 knowledge areas. By utilizing the appropriate tools and techniques, we are achieving the project success. For example, your organization has 4 projects. All the 4 projects managed in this framework. All the 4 projects are successful. What will happen to your organization? Your organization is successful organization.
Success.
Successful organization. This is what everybody wants. So every organization, what they're looking for, they want their projects to be a successful one, so that the organization can be a successful organization. That's why nowadays every organization are showing interest in project management. They are asking you to learn project management so that you can be a contributor for the project success. Very good. This is the general information about the project management. Now let's go into the scope management. What is scope? What is scope of work? Can you explain to me?
Only the work to be done.
Only the work to be done. Why you want to do the work?
To completion of project.
Understanding the client requirement.
You want to do only
Deliver the
the
product.
work which are necessary to produce the deliverables expected by the stakeholders of the project, right? That's what the meaning of only the work. Okay, I will put it the other way. When I say scope of work, you are every day seeing the scope of work in your projects, right? When you are reading through the scope of work, can you tell me what is the way the scope of work is structured? What are the various elements within the scope of work is defined? Can you tell me?
The duration,
No, duration is one thing. Generally, duration is not there. Duration is not in the scope of work. Duration is generally defined within your schedule. Just imagine when you are reading through the scope of work, what is the way it is structured? Generally, if you read through any scope of work, firstly, you can see the executive summary of the scope of work. And then you talk about product details, size, shape, functionality, performance expected from the product. And then they talk about technicalities, methodology, technology, standards, procedures that could be utilized in creating these products. And then they talk about quality requirements. And then they talk about acceptance requirements. They talk about test requirements. They talk about verification requirements, handing over requirements, maintenance requirements. So finally, they will say one statement: project exclusions. Project SPOs. Any scope of work you read, it is the structure of the scope of work. What does that mean? They are trying to clearly define the product and the project work which are necessary for producing the product in an integrated manner, so that all the stakeholders can clearly understand what is included in this project, what is not included in this project. What is included and what is not included in the project can be easily understood in a well-defined manner from the scope of work. Such a level of clear definement must be available in the final scope of work. When the scope of work is not clear, what will happen? Based on the available scope of work, you started producing the deliverable. When you complete the deliverable, stakeholders come for verification. What they will tell you? No, this is not the deliverable I have expected. I expected the different deliverable. You are producing different deliverable. No, it is not acceptable to me. Why it is happening? Because scope itself not clear. This is what will happen. This is what we are trying to avoid in project management. So in the planning work, we are having processes of collecting the requirements, defining the scope of work, and getting the stakeholder sign off before we move into the real planning work or actual planning work. So that's why I'm defining here scope of work in such a manner. Scope refers to all the work involved in creating the products of the project and the processes used for creating them. This is what the meaning of scope management. When I say scope, there are two elements. One is the product scope, another one is the project scope. When I say product scope, what does that mean? The features and functions of the product are included in the product scope. Size, shape, functionality, performance expected from the product are defined in the product scope. Completion is measured against the requirements. What does that mean? How are you going to say we have achieved the product scope? If you achieve the requirements, you fulfill the product scope. That's why I'm saying that completion is measured against the requirements. What is project scope? The work that must be done to deliver the product, meaning methodology, technology, standards, processes, which you are going to utilize in creating the product of the project. It's called as project scope. So I'm saying here, completion is measured against the plan. If you achieve your plans, that means you fulfilled the project scope. That means you fulfilled both the product scope and project scope. You fulfilled the scope of work. You manage the scope of work very well. That's why I'm saying that to ensure a successful project, both product and project scope must be well integrated. When I say scope management in the projects, what does that mean? It includes the processes required to ensure project includes all the work required. Note the point. Project includes all the work required and only the work required to successfully complete the project. And only the work required to complete the project successfully. What does that mean? If you are doing any work which are not related to the production of the deliverable, you are wasting your resources. You are wasting your time. When it will happen? When the scope is not clear, that will happen. That's why I was saying that project includes all the work required and only the work required to complete the project successfully. Of course, when I say managing the scope of work, what does that mean? Primarily concerned with the defining and controlling what is included and what is not included in the project. So when I say defining the scope of work, what does that mean? Which is creation of project scope statement. the project management terminology for the scope of work is project scope statement. Project scope statement. Generally, we are using the terminology scope of work. But the real project management terminology is project scope statement. So in the planning, we are finalizing the scope of work, which is project scope statement, which clearly defines the project work, what is included in this project, what is not included in this project. That level of clear definement is being achieved in the project scope statement, which is the basis for measuring our performance during the execution. That's what I explained to you when I say project scope statement. It is the structure. Generally, it starts with the executive summary of the scope of work, and then talk about the product description, size, shape, functionality, performance. What are the key deliverables expected from the scope of work? Technical requirements, quality requirements, acceptance requirements, test requirements, maintenance requirements, functional requirements, and so on. Finally, project execution. Project execution. But we need to remember one thing. Whenever I say project scope statement as a terminology, it gives you two important messages in the project or in the planning stage. What is the two important message? Whenever I use the terminology project scope statement, which gives me first indication is that we have the final scope of work in our hand. We have the final scope of work in our hand. That means all the stakeholders agreed with this scope of work. That's what it means. When I use the terminology, project scope statement is the final scope of work. Secondly, what does that mean for the planning work? That means we are ready to start the planning work. That means we are ready to start the planning work. Without the project scope statement finalization, we will not be able to move to the planning work. Even if you move to the planning work, you may get the plans, but no plans can get finalized. Why? Your scope itself is not final. How can you get your plans final? That's why in the project management, our first focus is getting the scope finalized and sign off. And then we move into the planning work. Real planning work starts after that. The next step is in the planning, scope planning is WBS. Maybe you heard WBS, right? What is WBS?
Work breakdown structure.
Work breakdown structure. Very good. What is work breakdown structure? What do you mean by work breakdown structure?
Categorization of the tasks in the proper sequence.
All the tasks will be shown in the WBS? No.
Just breaking the deliverables items into parts.
Look at this. This is the sample WBS structure of your project. So what happened? I will give you a simple example to understand this. When I complete my scope planning, which is development of project scope, which is project scope statement, right? Which is the scope of work. So when I complete that scope of work development, as a project manager, my table is full. The project manager, my table is full. I have a multi-volume of scope of work in my table. Architectural, mechanical, electrical, infrastructure, IT, and so on. You see, big, the whole table is full. What I will feel? What is my next duty? My next Next duty is to plan for this scope of work, how to achieve this scope of work. That's my next duty. When I look at these documents, what I will feel? Oh my God. So much, how I am going to finish this project. So much document to read and understand and develop the plan, execute, control and close. How I am going to achieve that? I will feel like very big. If you try to create the plan by reading through each line of scope of work and trying to come up with a plan, you never finish planning. Very difficult. So in order to make my life easier in creating the plan, why we need to keep all the scope of work into detail and try to create the plan? Why not we break down this scope of work into the deliverables which you are going to produce from this scope of work? Say for example, I have a building project. When I read through the scope of work, I can break down the building project scope of work into deliverables like substructure, which is below the ground, is called substructure, right?
Sir,
Superstructure, architectural work, mechanical work, electrical work, IT work, infrastructure work, and so on. So I break down the entire project at high level first. When you look at the substructure, it is again big. So I break down into basement 1, basement 2, basement 3. Again, I break down package 1, concrete package, retaining wall package. I break down into deliverables until I reach to the deliverable, but the deliverable is smaller in size. When the deliverable is smaller in size, easy for me to estimate the activities, just determine the sequence, estimating the duration, estimating the resources, developing the schedule, estimating the cost, determining the budget, determining the quality standards, methodology, technology, processes, procedures, everything will become easier for me. That's what we are using. So basically what we are doing, we are making our life easier in planning, execution, control, and closure. That's why what I'm doing, I'm breaking the scope into deliverable-oriented components until we reach to the point the deliverable is smaller in size. When you look at this sample, WBS, you can realize. So I break down into phase 1, phase 2, deliverable 3, sub-project 1, sub-project 2. Say phase 2, I divide to 3 bigger deliverables. I still bigger. So I feel deliverable 2.2, I break down to another 2 deliverables. But still bigger. I break down to another 2. Oh, still bigger. Again, I break down into 2 work packages. See, when I say the lowest level in the WBS, the lowest level in the WBS is called work package. What does that mean? Work package is the smaller in size. It's the smallest deliverable. It's the smallest deliverable.
For each phase, we should break down
Deliverable means product. Product means deliverable. So generally, the terminology is deliverable. It could be product. Product is the deliverable. So there are three key elements we need to know about the project, the WBS. Everything, when you are breaking down the scope of work, you need to break down the entire project at high level first. And then you go down to next level, go down to next level, go down to next level, until you feel the deliverable is smaller in size. So the lowest level in the WBS is called work package. Okay. One level higher than the work package, one level higher than the work package is called as control account level or cost account level. Why? In the case of large project, you may not have 10 packages, 20 packages. You may have 600 packages or 1,000 packages. In that case, it is very hard for you to manage at the package level. So they go one level higher than the work package to get the better management in the case of large projects. Also, in the case of large projects, the control account level or cost account level is connected to the corporate financial system. So if you want to measure the performance, you need to cost how much you spent actually until now. If you go and ask the account or financial people, can you tell me how much I spent on each activity? Are they able to tell you? No. But they can tell you how much I spent on material, how much spent on professional resources, how much spent on labor, how much spent on equipment, how much spent on other expertise services. So they can able to give you the cost of the data, cost data of the various expenses. So easy to measure the performance during the execution. Easy to get the right cost data from the financial analysis. That's why it's easier for management in the case of large projects. That's why we always manage at the control account level or cost account level, which is one level higher than the work package level. So let's come back to the point now. So I can say WBS, creation of the WBS is the process of subdividing the project deliverables and the project work into smaller and more manageable components. The commonly used technique for this is, what's the technique? Decomposition. The technique name is called decomposition. It's a general management technique. Whenever things are bigger, we will not keep at bigger level. We always try to break until we see it is manageable. That's called decomposition. The work breakdown will smoothen the way. Work breakdown will smoothen the way for estimating the project cost, time, scheduling the resources, and determining the quality control later. All will happen easily. Later, when you are measuring the progress, whenever I ask you, how is the project doing? I don't know, sir. Let me check. But when I ask you, how is the substructure package is doing? Oh, good, sir. It is going well. There's no variances in this. How is the architectural package? Yes, sir. It is having a minus 10% negative variance. How is the mechanical package? So it's having minus 15% negative variance. So it is easy to measure the progress on the WBS element or package level rather than looking at the progress level. So generally project progress is going to be done based on the WBS level. It is good for us. Look at this. WBS is going to be the basis for many things. WBS is going to be basis for many things. Networking or sequencing of work is done based on WBS. Scheduling is done based on WBS. Cost estimation is done based on the WBS. Risk analysis is carried out based on the WBS. Organizational structure is determined based on WBS, meaning which department responsible for which packages. Staffing is determined based on WBS. Control of project elements is determined based on WBS. Measurement of progress is based on WBS. So the WBS is going to be basis for many things during the project life cycle. This is sample structure. This is another sample structure for you. This we can see from the Premier output. You can see each packages by end of the planning. We can assign a cost for this package and schedule the start date and schedule the end date. and who is the person accountable for completing the package, all can be easily indicated within the WBS structure. I could say it is one of the most important project management tools. It serves as a foundation for planning, estimating, and project control. It serves as a deterrent to scope change. It serves as a deterrent to scope change. What does that mean? It serves as a deterrent to scope change.
Prevent the scope from modification or anything happen to it.
Normally what happens is, when our stakeholders come to the project meeting, they try to make changes. They will tell you, hello project manager, I need this deliverable on this date. How can you answer me? Sir, look at the WBS, see whether the deliverable is in the WBS. If the deliverable is in the WBS, yes sir, it is part of this project. You will get it according to our schedule. But if it is not WBS, what will you tell him? Sorry sir, it is not part of this project. It is not part of this project. That's why I'm saying it serves as a deterrent to scope change. Whenever they are trying to make changes to the scope of work, the WBS serves as a basis. To see whether it is part of this project work or it is not part of this project. If the deliverable is in the WBS, yes, it is part of this project. If the deliverable is not in the WBS, sorry, it is not part of this project. You can deter them in requesting unnecessary changes to the project. If they really need further, of course, we need to talk about through the change management process. Okay, next step is, what is the final result of the scope planning? The scope planning is scope baseline. That is the final result of the scope planning. What is scope baseline? It contains 3 documents and called as scope baseline. What are the 3 documents? Project scope statement plus WBS plus WBS dictionary. These 3 together called as project scope statement. Now you understand the project scope statement. You understand WBS. Then what is WBS dictionary? Anybody have idea?
No.
No. Okay. I give you a simple example. One of the packages, say electrical substation. That is one of the packages in the project. Now, we need to execute this package, manage this package until the deliverable handed over to the stakeholders, right? When you are managing this package, what are the elements you need to manage? You need to manage which revision of scope of work related to the package you need to execute. What are the various contractual obligations and conditions related to this package? What are the milestones related to the package? What are the quality standards and methodology or requirements related to this package? What are the various contractual obligations and conditions related to the package? What is the budget related to the package? These are the various elements we need to manage to successfully complete this package. But all this information I'm talking about is available somewhere. Scope of work available in the scope of work document. Quality standards document. Contractual conditions related to this, you must read through all the contract conditions to manage it. But what happens if you are running to multiple documents to understand which revision of document we are supposed to manage? Are you managing it easily? No, you are facing difficulty. So what we are doing in order to make our life easier in managing each work package, when we are finalizing the plans, we are creating a WBS dictionary, each work package, we are summarizing all the related information into dictionary. Scope of work, revision 4 scope of work related to this package. Quality requirement, particular section so and so must be complied related to this package. Cost budget, how much? What are the milestones related to the package? Firstly, we need to complete civil work milestone, and then we need to complete MEP milestone. Then third milestone is substation energization. These 3 milestones we need to achieve it. So we are collecting all the related information about this package into the dictionary. So become part of the scope baseline. So when you're managing the scope, you don't need to run into the multiple documents to understand. So you know what to manage. That's called WBS.
It's like a schedule.
Making our life easier, basically. Always there is a question to you. We have the baselines. What is baselines? I'll give you an example of a schedule as a baseline. So when I talk about the schedule baseline, the schedule is being developed in multi-revisions. Is it possible to finalize the schedule in revision 0? When you produce the first schedule, revision 0 schedule, you distribute to the stakeholders. Are they giving you the this is very good schedule? No. They give you the feedback. You also think about different aspects. You may run into revision 1. And then you distribute again, you conduct workshops, gain their feedback, and then you go to revision 2. Why you are doing this? So when you are running into revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, when I reached revision 4, all the stakeholders said, oh, this schedule is perfect. It covers all the aspects. This schedule really workable. This schedule really achievable. When the stakeholders say this schedule is workable, achievable, realistic, meaning they are committed for implementing this schedule. This is what we want to achieve in the planning work. When the stakeholders believe your plans are workable, achievable, realistic, you will get better implementation. All the stakeholders are committed for implementing this plan. Otherwise, what they will say, you created this plan, you project manager created this plan, right? So you go and implement. We are not interested. We are not having any buy-in on this plan. We don't believe this schedule is workable. In this case, you will not get the cooperation in implementing this schedule. That's why in the planning exercise, it's not the single revision we can finalize any plans. We may go for multi-revisions.
After multi-revision, the stakeholders will agree.
Yes. That means we are giving them for review, and they review and feedback. They give you the multi-comment. They give you different ideas, different methodology, different technology, different sequence. We can achieve shorter. We can here do better. Here we can reduce the resources. That kind of ideas they are giving. So basically, why we are doing this exercise? We want to gain the buy-in of the stakeholders into our plan. Nothing else. Once the buy-in of the stakeholders is available with our plans, then you can see the different level of commitment for executing the plans. Then your project has chances of achieving the success become higher. Otherwise, you will not get the cooperation of implementing this. That's what we are trying to. So basically, planning work is done to gain the buy-in of the stakeholders into the plan. The question comes here. When we come to the revision 4, the stakeholders said, oh, this plan is perfect. This plan is workable, achievable, realistic. Then it becomes baseline. Meaning, this is the basis for us to measure our performance during execution and control stage. So, while you are executing the work, we are going to measure your actual performance, compare with this baseline to see whether we are as per the plan or we are having variance from the plan, so that we can take necessary action to improve the performance. But the question comes here. When will you change the baseline? When will you modify the baseline? What is the answer? Whenever we are not happy, we will modify the baseline, right?
Baseline, it is a strategy.
Yes.
There is a change in scope.
When you think you're not going to be able to meet the deadlines or the deliverables deadlines.
Okay.
There's a risk.
When you think we are not going to meet the deadline, are we allowed to change the baseline?
No.
No.
So when will you change the baseline?
When there is a change of scope of work.
When there is a change of scope of work, yes. Here, only when there is a approval of changes to the plans or to the scope of work or plan to the resources or any other part of the changes, we can only modify the baseline if the changes are approved by change control board. If the changes are approved by change control board in the project. What is that change control? I give you a briefly about changes. When I say changes, changes could come from many sources, right? Maybe stakeholder requesting a change to the product, a stakeholder requesting a change to the scope of work, a stakeholder changes to the requirements, and so on, right? Which will initiate changes to the project. Please unmute. So, Galaxy. Okay. Now, this is one source of change. Second source of change. When you are executing the work, basically you are implementing your plan. During planning, you have selected certain methodology and technology in doing the work. But when you are executing the work, certain technology you adopted is not working well. Or certain standard you adopted is not really yielding the expected result. What will you do? Will you leave it like this? You will propose changes to the methodology. You will propose changes to the technology because you determined during the execution it is not working. It is not yielding the expected result. We are not able to achieve the certain requirements of the stakeholders. So what will happen? You will propose a change to the plan. Or during the monitoring control work, you are measuring the scope performance, schedule performance, cost performance, quality performance, and so on. You are measuring your current performance, comparing with your plans to determine whether we are working aligned with our plan or there are deviations from the plan, right? When there are deviation, which is called variance, variance. Variance is the terminology used in project management. So, when we are seeing the variance, we need to understand what is the magnitude of variance from the plan. How much we are deviating from the plan. 10% deviation, 20% deviation, 10 days delay, or 1 month delay. So, depending on the magnitude of deviation, you are coming up with an action plan to improve the performance. You may propose changes to the methodology, changes to the technology, increasing the resources, changing the sequence, right? Changing the resources capability. Instead of 10 years experienced engineer, you may propose, oh, now let us change to 20 years experienced engineer so that we can improve the performance of the project. All these your proposals you are making. That means you are making a change. You are proposing a change as a project team members or as a project manager. So whatever be the source of the change, all must be handled in only one process, which is called integrated change control process. Integrated change control process. In this process, we are setting up a change control board. Who is in the change control board? Say customer, end user, key stakeholders like a project manager, design consultant, supervision consultants, cost consultant, main contractor, key subcontractors or major subcontractors, all are in the change control board. So whenever you are trying to make changes to any of the project plans, these members has to analyze reason behind the change, what are the actions proposed in managing this change has to be analyzed, and then they need to take decision collectively. That's why I said the changes are approved in change control board. So only when the changes are approved in change control board, then we can modify the baseline. Otherwise, nobody has authority to modify the baselines or change the baselines. Keep that in mind. Okay, we completed the scope planning. The next step, we moved into execution. What is our role in the scope management? Control scope. What do we want to control the scope? We need to monitor our execution to see whether we are fulfilling the agreed scope of work. So what we need to do? We need to measure our actual performance periodically, bi-weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. We need to measure our actual scope performance and compare with our scope baseline to see whether we are working as per the scope baseline or there are variances from the scope baseline. If there are positive variants, no problem. We are doing better than the plan. But if it's negative variance, you need to take necessary corrective action to improve the scope performance. That's called control scope. It's called control. But for this purpose, we are using two techniques generally in controlling the scope of work. One is variance analysis, another one is trend analysis. Variance analysis and trend analysis. What is variance analysis? What is variance?
Any changes?
Periodically, we are measuring the scope performance. Say we are measuring monthly basis. So by end of the month, we measure what is our performance until today, right? So we are measuring our actual performance until today. What will you do in this case? You are compare this actual performance with your scope baseline. Because your basis of measuring the performance is scope baseline. So you are determining your actual performance, comparing with your scope baseline to see whether there is a variance from the plan. Say, for example, when I measure, I determine I have minus 20% variance. That means I am having 20% negative variance. What does that mean? My actual performance doesn't match with my plan. I am having 20% negative performance is lagging behind. What I will do now? I need to come up with a action plan for recovering this negative variance, right? How will you come up with the action plan? Chandan Kumar, tell me. How will you come up with your action plan?
Request a change? Or?
No, now you are having 20% negative variance.
Make assessment of the slippage and then allocate adequate resources if required. make the recovery.
So
Need to
when
check
you
the
already
lagging
assess,
phase.
you determine we are having 20% negative variance, right? So you need to come up with a action plan, right? How will you come up with the action plan? That's my question. What will you do to come up with action plan? Yes, correct. You are there. Tell me.
Need to make another recovery plan, which is saying wherever we are lagging. So how we can improve that lagging places? Like we need to improve
What do you
our
mean by
resources.
wherever you are lagging? What do you mean by wherever you are lagging?
By analyzing, we should know that where we are lagging. Like if the shortage of resources, if there is a shortage of resources, it will also come up with the negative variances. So
Yeah.
by the time we can increase manpower resources or equipment resources, in that way we can increase or we may improve our recovery plan accordingly.
Does a
Correct.
request a change?
No.
Okay.
What does that mean is why we have this variance? What is the reason behind this variance? Maybe methodology is not working. Maybe technology is not working. Maybe number of resources deployed is not sufficient. Or maybe the resources productivity rate is not what we planned. Maybe you have deployed less experienced resources. So whenever you see variances, you must understand what is the reason behind these variances. If you don't understand what is the reason behind these variances, you will not be able to come up with action. Even if you come up with the action plan, it will not work because you don't know what is the reason behind this. Say, for example, when you see the negative variance, you increase the resources. Maybe the problem is not resources. Maybe methodology is not working. So increase the resources will not help you in recovering this problem. Right? That's why the variance analysis talks about whenever you see variances, you must try to analyze what is the reason behind these variances. What are the contributory factors that resulted this variance so that we can come up with a appropriate corrective action in order to improve the scope performance. That's called variance analysis. So always we say, when I say variance analysis, I used to say after the fact look at it. What do you mean after the fact? After variance happened, we are looking at the factors that cause this variance. The second technique is trend analysis. What is trend analysis? For example, first month you measure 10% negative variance. Second month you measure 20% negative variance. Third month you measure 25% negative variance. So what does that mean? So when you are analyzing your past performance statistics, you can able to project what is the expected performance, whether we are going in a negative direction or we are going in a positive direction, can be easily understood. That's called trend analysis. Whenever I say trend analysis, what does that mean? We are utilizing the past performance data in order to project the future performance of that project. That's called trend analysis. So we can understand whether the project performance is improving or deteriorating. Remember, one more thing they may try to test you is called scope creep. Have you heard this terminology? Scope creep. CREEP. Scope creep.
No.
So, uncontrolled changes in the project is called as scope creep. Remember, uncontrolled changes. Whenever you are trying to make a change in the project, you need to make adjustment to the time, adjustment to the cost, adjustment of the resources, and so on. But you keep changing, but no make adjustment to the time or cost. You're still expecting the same time, same cost, the project to be completed. Is it possible? So when you keep changing without thinking about all these aspects, you are going to end up in a situation called messy situation. So you don't have any basis for measuring your scope of work anymore. Because you kept changing. When you change any scope of work, you must analyze what is the impact on time, what's the impact on cost, what's the impact on quality, what's the impact on resources, what's the impact on customer satisfaction, what's the impact on risk. Maybe this change is inducing a new risk to the project. It has to be analyzed. So you are, without analyzing anything, you keep changing the project scope continuously. So you will end up in a situation called scope creep. Very good. The next step is validate scope. What do you mean validate scope? Next part of the scope management. Now you finalize the scope of work in the planning work, which is the scope baseline, which is project scope statement plus WBS plus WBS section. Now you are executing the work. When you are executing the work, you are producing the deliverable, right? You are producing the project deliverable or product. When you are producing the deliverable, as a project team, we must first check whether the deliverable has been completed correctly according to the stakeholders' requirements, right? We need to check first. Where are we checking this? Which process verifies this in the project? As a project team, we must check first whether the deliverable is being produced according to the stakeholders' requirements. Who is checking this? What is the
Quality
process?
department.
Yes. What is the quality? What's the name of the process?
Quality control.
Quality control, yes. Basically, the quality control process verifies the correctness of the deliverable, meaning whether the deliverable has been completed correctly according to the stakeholders. When they do this exercise, they may say okay, or they may say not okay. When they say okay, what does that mean? Meaning, through their verification, they confirm the deliverable has been completed correctly as per the project requirements. Then they are called as verified deliverables. These deliverables are called as verified deliverables. When they say not okay, what does that mean?
Rejection.
Why rejection? They simply say rejection? No. They are telling you what are the non-conformities or the defects they identify through their verification process. So you need to go for defect repair. Then when you complete your defect repair, you call for verification again, and then they say okay, then it will become a verified deliverable, right? So when the quality control team says this deliverable is a verified deliverable, what does that mean? They confirm this deliverable meets the requirements of the stakeholders. So what will you do with this deliverable? So the quality control department says, okay, you are so happy. Oh my God, my deliverable I have completed successfully, verified by the quality control team. So I can take this deliverable, put it in my pocket, go home and sleep nicely. Alas, no. There is a work to do. So what is the next work to do? We need to bring this deliverable to this process. So the next work, we need to call the related stakeholders, come for verification. So you need to call the related stakeholders, come for verification. That's called validate scope process. So when you call the stakeholders, come for verification, When they come to the verification process, what they will do? They look at the deliverable. Oh, looks nice, fantastic, nice green color. I like this deliverable. See you, bye bye. This is what they do? No. They will come and check all the requirements they gave it to you. They will measure, they will examine, they will test, and then they will say, yes, the deliverable is acceptable. So they are giving you the acceptance of the completed deliverables in this process, which is called validate scope. So what is the difference between quality control and validate scope? In the quality control, we are verifying the correctness of the deliverable by the project team. Whereas in the validate scope, we are getting the acceptance of the completed deliverables. So when they give you acceptance, how they give you the acceptance? They give you the sign off, right? They give you the sign off. Yes, deliverable is accepted. This is your proof to say you have completed the project deliverable successfully. So you take this matter to the closer. You take this matter to the closer to demonstrate you have achieved the project deliverable successfully. That's called closer. So without completing the validate scope process, you may not be able to go to the closer. So this is your proof to say that we have completed the project work successfully. That's called validate scope process. When this happens, whenever the major deliverables are completed, you go for scope verification. Or whenever you complete a particular phase, say phase 1 completed, you go for validate scope process. Then you get the acceptance of the completed deliverables. Clear? But what is the technique we use for this exercise? Inspection. Inspection is the technique used for this. What is inspection?